Now, I've made my fair share of steaks online, and every time I do, I'm inundated with comments about whether I've done it right or wrong. So today, I've got 5 world-class chefs showing me how they make their favorite steak at home. And I have my own opinions, which we'll save to the end. Let's get stuck in.
Okay, cook a steak. All right, I got this. I think I can do it. Oh, hey, Andy. How's it going? Aaron Franklin here. I'm going to tell you how I like to cook a steak. I'm a little long-winded. You can edit this accordingly. I'm going to pretend I know what I'm talking about. All right, go. Pick a nice thick ribeye, big ribeye cap, big spinalis on there, because that is, I think, the best part of the whole cow. I'll dry brine it in the fridge. You know, I use Morton's kosher salt, about 1.52%. Skip forward to the next night, fire up a cast iron skillet, just big enough to fit the ribeye. Pull out the steak. I would like to have the steak tempered for about an hour. Put a neutral high smoke point oil. Put the steak in. I'll look at both sides, and whichever side of that steak looks best is the one I'll put down on the pan first. And I'll let it get a good, nice sear. Part of the reason also for that dry brine is that I want the surface of the steak to be pretty dry, so it does get a really hard sear. Like, oh my God, it's my favorite flavor. And then in the meantime, you know, go ahead and make salad dressing. We're gonna have a salad with this later. I love oysters, so I usually cook a steak while we're shucking oysters and having martinis or last words or Negronis or whatever. Shuck some oysters, kind of check on it, take a peek, and when that first side has like just the perfect sear, flip it over and get the other side. And then right before the steak is done, if I was really gonna temp it, it would be about 110, 112 is kind of my sweet spot. Add a little bit of butter to the pan just to kind of butter it up and get that crust like really kind of set in super good, but not too soon, like right before you pull it. When I feel like the spinalis is starting to get cooked, I'll actually pull the steak out and just go ahead and cut it off and let it hang out on the side. Because the last thing I want to do is super overcook that particular muscle.
I've never seen a spinalis that big before. That is massive.
That's pretty much it. Most likely I would have some kind of potato situation going on, and we would have salad to go along. No sauce, just crunchy salt.
All right, Mr. Franklin, we all know you know your way. We all know you know your way around a hunk of beef. And to be perfectly honest, this speaks to my heart. Let's have an oyster. For no other reason than I want an oyster. Shout out to the Noma team for this sea buckthorn hot sauce. It's delicious. Yum. But the star of the show, the beef. We're gonna start with some of the eye. I'm kind of just tasting this myself now. It's delicious. And the spinalis, I agree. The spinalis for me is the best muscle on the animal. The only thing that can make that better is just getting some of that butter on there. They're cutting the spinalis off and continuing to cook the eye, I think is a kind of a clever idea, especially for thicker steaks. I've never done it before, but it seemed to work well. Keeps it nice and juicy. We all know the salads are just there to keep our mums happy. I'm not gonna taste those today. I'm an adult. Delicious.
Hey Andy, Adam Byatt here from Trinity in London.
Oh, hey Adam.
This is my perfect steak. We're gonna start with a sirloin, nice 2 centimeter thick sirloin, bone in. That steak needs to be grass fed to be the very best. Let's get that steak out of the fridge at least 2 hours before we're gonna cook that steak, so it's really brought up to temperature and the middle can get to the perfect cuisson without too much sear. First of all, we're gonna cook that steak, nice cast iron pan. We're gonna start that in olive oil. We're gonna get really big color, lots and lots of Maldon sea salt, black pepper, and really good crust. Use one of those meat presses. I'm sure you got one of those hiding away. Put the press on, get a serious Maillard reaction, lots of caramelization. A couple of minutes on the other side. We're looking to get this steak to perfect medium at the end. On a sirloin, I don't want medium well, I don't want medium rare, I want it perfect medium. So we're gonna keep cooking this steak. Then we're gonna add a knob of butter, a little bit of thyme, a little bit of garlic, and we're gonna baste this steak really beautifully. Turn that heat right down and really connect with that steak and baste the butter over until we get to just under medium. At that point, we're gonna take the steak out, lift it on a plate. Gonna pour all the butter that's in the pan, all that fat, over the steak and leave it there to rest. Really important. Okay, let's get on some chips. We need to have chips for this. And this is me at home, so this is kind of a quick way of making really great chips. Get some lovely Desiree or King Edward potatoes. We're gonna cut those into 1 centimeter thick pieces, kind of finger size. Once we've got our chips, we're gonna liberally salt them with table salt, almost like you were making a confit duck, so plenty of salt on there, Andy. And leave those for 10 minutes. While that's happening, let's get our vegetable oil, peanut oil, whatever you use, up to about 170, not hotter. After 10 minutes, we're gonna rinse those chips like you would under a cold water, rinse off all that salt, and then dry them on a cloth really nicely to get all the moisture out into the 170 oil while the steak's resting. Take about 12 to 14 minutes. It's a long cook. They're not gonna go super golden, but they are gonna be almost like an English fish and chip shop chip. Lovely. Now, onto the sauce. Pretty sure everyone's gonna give you béarnaise, gonna give you peppercorn sauce, hollandaise, whatever it is. But this is how I do it at home. Neither of those work for me. It's just too much faff, too much work, too many calories for home. So I want something a bit simpler. So I take some lovely green beans, I take off the root, and I cook them for 2 minutes in really nice seasoned water. Into ice water, then we hold those green beans. I chop shallots. I want 3 beautiful chopped shallots, not too fine. Once that steak's out of the pan and the fat's tipped out, the pan goes back on the heat. Those chopped shallots go in, and we just turn the heat up gently. Into that pan now goes sherry vinegar. Cook it all the way down, then turn the heat off, and that's it, finished. In goes the green beans. In goes lots of olive oil, and in goes a nice teaspoon of Dijon mustard. And all of that gets a really good mix around. So you're kind of warming the green beans in this olive oil, Dijon mustard, meat juices in the pan, all sitting there beautifully. That's it, we're ready to serve. Let's take that steak, take it off the bone, cut it into 1 centimeter pieces. We're gonna put those lovely dressed green beans on the side. Out comes our chips, and I want those chips to be seasoned with molten sea salt, black pepper, and malt vinegar. That there, Andy, is the perfect steak and chips. Thanks for having me on. Good luck.
Unsurprisingly, that steak is delicious. Cooked on the bone, great crust, what is not to like about that? Personally, I'd order it medium rare, but hey, we're all different and I'm sure Chef would agree with that. For me, the genius move on this plate is that sauce. Using the sherry vinegar as kind of a cheats version of a gastrique or like a vinegar reduction is genius. It's full of flavor. You pick up all those pan juices off the pan, the shallots add a lovely sweetness, and then using the Dijon to emulsify some lovely olive oil through it. Genius move. I love that sauce. The chips are exactly as Adam says. They taste like a fish and chip shop chip when I used to eat them all the time when I was living in London. That's a great little steak dinner to have during the week, but I think the one thing from this that people should take is that sauce. It's a genius move.
Hi Andy, Michel here.
Ha! Bonjour, Chef.
So you asked me about my favourite steak, and for me it would be an entrecôte. French heritage, mate, literally translates as in between the ribs, but it must be 100% pure Aberdeen Angus.
Now, we can't really get Aberdeen Angus beef here in Australia, but I have got a lovely Ibity Back Angus from southeast Queensland, which I think is just as delicious. You'll have to come down to Australia one day and I'll cook you one.
Double entrecôte. So really, really thick one. The reason why I do that is that you can just colour it and give it so much love in the pan, continuously basting it and getting it caramelised on all sides, including the fat. The fat needs to be fully cooked and rendered down because that's edible. That is delicious. And I like my entrecôte medium rare. I think every cut of beef has a different cooking temperature, but for me, entrecôte, medium rare. Get it to rest, put it aside, long rest time so that it relaxes and you get the juices coming through it. And whilst it's resting, get rid of the excess fat in the pan, throw in there some freshly chopped shallots and a little knob of fresh butter. Cook them out. No colour, just cook them out. Then to that, you add some snails, escargot, French.
Snails, not particularly common here in Australia. You'll have to get them imported and they'll be pre-cooked. To be perfectly honest, we put them back in their shells to be fancy, but they'll usually come just canned, slice them in half. They're not as crazy as you think from a flavour and texture perspective.
Sweat them down with the shallots and then a generous splash of Mar de Bourgogne.
Is it a screw? Got it.
I told you this was going to be French and classic, mate. Flambé it.
Sorry, Cameron.
It looks good, but it also means the alcohol is cooked off. Then you throw in some peeled white grapes. Hey, babe, peel me a grape.
Yeah, I'm good.
And seedless. It does make a difference. Warm them through, yeah? Then you add a couple of spoonfuls of beef stock or veal stock. Reduce that down until it's nice and sauce consistency. Check the seasoning. Then to finish off, I don't finish off with butter. Don't. This has to be beefy. Finish it off with chopped bone marrow. A generous amount. Bring that up to temperature. Slice the entrecôte. Generous amount of this sauce. And man, I tell you, this is French gastronomy. I'm salivating. Bon appétit, mon ami. See you soon.
All right, Chef, this looks absolutely delicious, and I definitely tasted that sauce, and wow, get some of those snails for sure. That is delicious. It's rich, It's fatty, it's full of beef flavor. The sauce is perfectly balanced. Really nice amount of sweetness coming through from the grapes and the shallots. What more can I say? Delicious.
Hi, Andy.
Hey, Danielle.
Firstly, my name is Danielle Alvarez. I'm a chef and cookbook author here in Sydney. If I was making a steak at home, I'd probably want to pick a ribeye, a nice thick one, couple of centimeters. I always get grass-fed. I'd let it come to room temperature. I'd season it with salt. I'd probably add pepper later. I'd always cook it over charcoal outside. Get it on the grill, really, really hot. Let it kind of form a bit of a crust, but I don't really believe in that whole thing of like you only flip it once. I actually like to flip it a few times to make sure that it gets like even cooking throughout. I definitely use a temperature probe, temperature thermometer to help me know exactly what the temperature is. Even though I've cooked hundreds and hundreds of steaks in my life, there's really no other way to be sure. So internal temperature for about a medium rare, I'd cook it to like 50 to 52. And then something I do that I actually think is what makes it is that I rest it in a little dish that has some softened butter, some crushed garlic cloves, and some torn herbs like thyme or rosemary or something like that. And that like butter melting in the meat juices, it almost forms like a little bit of a delicious sauce for the steak, which is chef's kiss, so good. After it's rested for about like, let's say, 10 minutes for a steak that's like that, I would slice, I kind of cut off the rib cap and I slice that in a different orientation to that kind of eye piece, because I think the grain runs a little bit differently and I like to do that. As far as what I would serve with it, potatoes, you can't go wrong. I'd probably peel some delicious starchy potatoes that are good for making chips. I'd boil them in salted water and then I might like shallow fry them in a little bit of oil or ghee if I'm feeling extra fancy. I also love iceberg wedge steakhouse, American steakhouse kind of salad. So whether that's with like a blue cheese dressing or a ranch dressing with like dill and chives, buttermilk, sour cream, that kind of vibe. Tomatoes, maybe some crumbled bacon. Oh God, that's just so good. And I also love to serve a little bit of hot English mustard because I like to dip my little bites of steak in a little bit of mustard for some acidity. Sometimes I serve with a lemon wedge because I add lemon to everything and I think it just lifts all of that really rich meat. I should say my favorite cut is ribeye steaks, but I think if you're gonna go and cook a steak like this, you should get the best piece of meat that you can afford. Look for grass-fed, look for dry-aged, look for a nice thick cut, look for something that has a bit of fat on it if you can find it, and yeah, it'll be absolutely delicious.
All right, Danielle, let's have a taste. I'll tell you what, I'm a huge fan of a wedge salad, so I'm gonna start there. It's the textures. The crispy lettuce, the crunchy lardons, those pops of sweetness on the cherry tomatoes, love it. The steak. Now, it's a Greek gentleman I used to cook a steak for quite often that used to always ask for lemon on the side. It's kind of a genius move, really. Bit of acidity. Also, never seen that technique with the butter and making a little pan sauce, but love that move. Delicious. Also, a big fan of some hot English mustard. Little crispy potato to soak up all those juices. Delicious. Can't beat a steak cooked over charcoal. And another chef that chosen the ribeye steak, good choice. Ooh, it's a great choice.
G'day, Andy.
Hi, Josh.
Perfect steak dinner. It's a tricky one and I thought about it for a little while. I think the one that we've had fun with the most is a grilled beef taco. So what we do is we take a piece of rump cap, rub it in al pastor marinade, rub that all over the outside, trim some of the fat off, of course.
We're gonna let this marinade for about 3 hours, I reckon. And we're actually gonna leave it out at room temp so it comes up to temperature nice and slowly.
I put that whole cap on a wire rack and pop it into the oven and set the oven at about 100 degrees Celsius. With a probe thermometer, you just want to take it up to around 52 thereabouts.
Is it cake? Is it steak? Who knows?
And it usually takes a little while, like good 90 minutes to 2 hours. And then I cut steaks. And once I've got those steaks, I rub a bit more marinade on. And then I go to a hot preheated charcoal grill. I just grill that over really high temperature just to caramelize that al pastor marinade. Add a little bit of extra salt at that point. Once the steaks are done, just set them aside. Corn tortillas, some people don't love those ones that you buy in the packet. They're super convenient. My kids love them. Sliced raw white onion, just really coarsely cut coriander leaf, and then very finely cut coriander stem. I mix those two things together, a little bit of diced green chili. I try not to put too many seeds in, but I try to leave some in. And then fish sauce lime juice in there. And I think the fish sauce makes it extra yummy. Give that a good mix, set it aside so that's its own little condiment. And then I usually do like a chopped salad, tomato, avocado, cucumber, grilled corn, like that you can grill on the same barbecue that you set up to grill your steak. Give all that a good mix, and usually it's just lime juice, salt, and a little bit of olive oil. And again, you can put a splash of fish sauce in, but you don't want to overdo it because it's almost the relief that you need with the beef. Finally, you know, just to make sure everybody goes to bed full and there's no second dinners happening, sweet potatoes or kumara, your favorite. Slice it in half, cut it into wedges, and the wedges, you don't want them to be too thick because the ambition really is to coat that sweet potato in olive oil, season it with salt, lay them out separately so they're not touching, and pop it in a really hot oven around 190, 195, and cook them until you almost achieve a fondant-like texture on the base. And that's it. It's kind of like a really fun rump cap hybrid taco night with chopped salad and sweet potato wedges. Thanks a lot. Bye.
All right, Josh, let's see what this is all about. Looks pretty good. I will say it's a different technique to cooking the steak like that, kind of reversing, then slicing it and sealing it. But I think cooking for a lot of people, it kind of makes sense. Fish sauce. Fish King had to get some fish in there somehow. Cheers. Delicious. Really nicely balanced. Really love the addition of the fish sauce and the salsa. It's a lovely amount of umami. And that pecan you cook like that and cut up twice makes for a fantastic steak taco. On you, Josh. All right, and the recipe you've all been waiting for, probably not, my version, or how I like to cook a steak at home. And it all starts the day before. I like to use a ribeye, and I like it a decent thickness, almost to the point where I'd prefer to cook one steak for me and Kaylin to share and have it thicker than two thinner steaks. I think you get a better cuisson, and it's gonna be easier to control the temperature. If I remember, I'll also dry brine it. So I'll season it liberally and place it on a wire rack over a tray in the fridge overnight to brine it. So the day of, I don't stress about like tempering too much. I will, at the start of the cook, I will bring it out and let it kind of just sit at room temperature. So that's there doing its thing. But we will start making the sauce first. And it's a l'entrecôte sauce, so famous Parisian steakhouse. I used to work in one in Melbourne. This is more of a modern version, not a super classic version, because I prefer it to be a bit more emulsified and a bit more like a mayonnaise. I think the original version is kind of a bit of a duller color and often split, and I'm not a huge fan of that. So to a saucepan, you're gonna add about a quarter of your butter, along with the shallots, anchovies, ground nutmeg. You'll saute this for 2 to 3 minutes, breaking down the anchovies. Okay. Turn the heat off, you're gonna add the rest of the butter. We're just trying to melt this butter. We're not trying to burn it, we're not trying to get color on it, just melt it. All right, jug of a blender. We're gonna add our herbs, capers, egg yolk, Worcestershire sauce, Dijon, pinch of salt, black pepper. Juice of a lemon. We're gonna blend this. And once your butter is cool enough, you can put your finger in there without it burning. You're gonna start adding it slowly. Sauce done. Leave that to the side. Don't put it in the fridge. Don't put it anywhere too hot. It's an emulsion. It'll break if it gets too hot or too cold. So I like to cook my steaks in a carbon steel pan. Cast iron will work just as well. Truth be told, I think the perfect steak cooked at home is actually cooked over charcoal. But another truth be told, I'm often too lazy to actually light the charcoal barbecue at home. All right, if it's a little bit wet, we'll pat it dry. This one's nice and dry. I'm gonna place it into our beef tallow, and the magical meat press comes out again. And then I like to cook my steak. I'll leave it for like 50 seconds the first time, then I'll flip it, leave it for another 50 seconds, and then I'll flip it every 40 seconds until it's reached the desired doneness. So I pull my steaks at 48 degrees Celsius, but here is a chart of all the temperatures where I think you should pull your steak for the desired doneness you're looking for. Steak's done, it's time for our final cook on our chips. And if you want the recipe for these chips, it's linked above in a whole video I did just on the delicious potato chip. All right, we'll carve this steak on a plate. I'm gonna put it on a shovel. Wow, you Andy. Our seasoned chips and our sauce. There you go. That's how I cook steak at home if I'm feeling like being indulgent. Yum. I tell you what, first things first is that old mate Aaron Franklin was right. My spinalis is overcooked. The rest of it's perfect, but the spinalis is over. So maybe I should start pulling my spinalis off halfway through the cook. I really love the sauce. Delicious sweetness coming from the shallots, full of umami and great savory notes from all the other ingredients. Delicious. A huge thank you to all the chefs that sent in their videos. I really appreciate you all and love all your work. They're all linked below, their restaurants, their personal handles or their restaurant handles. Go check them all out and follow them if you don't already. And thank you to you guys for tuning in and watching another video. If you're not subscribed, click that subscribe button and like this video if you haven't already, and we'll see you next week for another video. Peace.